Welcome to The Truth in This Art. Thank you for joining us as we delve into conversations that bridge arts, culture, and community. I am your host, Rob Lee. And today is going to be a good one. Today's episode, we're engaging with a guest whose artistic journey weaves through acting, writing, and educating, shaping the landscape of theater and beyond. A talent that has flourished from the halls of Suitland High School and to the stages at the Kennedy Center and Studio Theater. Her narrative is a testament to passion, resilience, and creativity. Please welcome Kashayna Johnson. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us on this podcast. And this is going to be great. So I want to start off with a very sort of introductory conversation kind of question or what have you before we get into the real topics. So, acting, education, writing, all of those great things. But could you share with us sort of one of those early experiences, whether it would be with acting, more pointed, or with creativity generally? I got some sub questions in there, but I at least want to start off with that piece.
Yeah, it's funny because I was thinking about this the other day and I was like, oh, well, my first job actually calls for all of those things, education, youth, creativity, performance, all of that. And I didn't even realize that. My first job at 15, I got into a children's theater troupe. But it was when I moved down to Maryland, Harmony Hall in Fort Washington had a troupe. I forgot the name of it now, but and it was a summer program, and we would go and you would co-write a script with the director and with the lead writer, and it was a group of us teens who were the performers, but we would just improv. And based off of what we were doing in rehearsals, the writer wrote out a skeleton of a script, and then as we continued to rehearse, we would just advocate for certain things that we actually wanted in the script, but also we were allowed to contribute in that way. So it was that, and then we would go on tour for the summer, and we would go to different community centers and different schools and things like that, where you had kids who were anywhere from 5 up until teens, yeah. In summer camps and things like that. So it was a wide range of kids that we were working with, but we would also bring them into the show as well. And so I think that's where it started. Before that, I did have not a so great experience of auditioning. I auditioned for The Wiz when I was 7, and it was terrible. I just completely bombed it. And that was my first time ever stepping into audition space. I didn't know that I wanted to act, quote unquote. And that scarred me up until high school. I did not touch theater. I did not think about acting until high school, and into that program. So I think that's where the foundation was set. I love working with kids. I think it just poured into me in a very specific way that reignited whatever I thought I'd lost for art, creativity. And so that's kind of where it began, I would say, for sure. And then going to Suitland, meeting my theater teacher at the time, LaShante Clay, she poured into us in a very specific way. And that kept me on the journey, and I'm here or whatever.
I like that. I like that. And I like that you're kind of teasing the next question. So good on you. It's like you got the questions beforehand. Who knows? So it still is in it. And I like that, being able to revisit something where it's almost, and I'll use a comic reference, it's almost like returning to Crime Alley in the whole Batman parlance. It's this is where something really tragic or performative, tragic or pivotal in one's life has happened. For Batman, it's his family was killed, and that's what began his ascent to Batman. And having that instance when you're young and you're like, I want to do this. This is going to be great. And it's nah, I don't think it's for you, bro. I don't think it's for you, sis. I had that. And I wanted to be an illustrator, when I was younger. That's what my path was going to be. And I ended up going to an art school, doing the whole entrance test. And it was just nah, you're kind of mid. And I just stopped. And I think as an adult, and in part doing this, working through the creative demons, if you will, I've been able to revisit that, but maybe in a slightly different way. instead of drawing. I'm not a young man anymore. Who I am, but I'm not young. I'm not young in that way that I want to do the whole thing. I do a lot of interviews, I do a lot of podcasts, but I don't know if I have the energy to draw a whole comic, which I was doing then. But I'm writing comics now, so I'm able to revisit that thing in a different way. Your creativity is your creativity.
Period. Absolutely. And I will also add, like, even running away from art, turning your back to it or finding something else, it always finds you though. Like, you know, and I'm a true believer also, like you said, like if it's a part of you, who you are, your passion, like I don't think it's something that you can just escape from, even if it like reintroduces itself in a different form or a different fashion.
So talk about a little bit like when you had that realization, like I really want to be in this sort of space as broadly as it is, from the art, from the acting standpoint, from the education standpoint. It's like, all right, I know I really want to do this. Like not necessarily making the leap, but you're like, all right, I'm gonna have to make a leap eventually. You're looking at it, you're like, there's the precipice. There's that ledge I have to jump off of. And, we talk about like overnight success and all of that different stuff. And, I told folks, like, I'm coming up on 15 years of doing podcasting. And
wow,
it's been a long time.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you. But coming to that point where, and I've said this to people recently, I remember going across the street from a job I had, I didn't really like, and making decent money, but didn't really like it. But I had the discretionary income where I could just take this $500 I had on me to go get some microphones and an interface and just start messing around with audio, being self-taught. That's what it was for me. And making some of those decisions later and then, seeing how much time I'm investing in it, that's where I'm sort of like, all right, are you really doing this or are you just kind of faking it? So what was that sort of point for you where, okay, I'm doing this. This is where I'm at. I'm putting my time. I'm like not going to these, these hangs. I'm not, I'm putting money in this area versus that area. Tell me about that.
Wow, that's a great question. That's a great question. When did I pull myself up and say, get it together? Wow. I mean, I don't know. That's a great question because I feel like I've just kind of been in it for a while where I'm like, I've had those moments in process, right? Any process where you get a little scared, you're like, can I do this? Sure. But as far as choosing this, well, okay, I'll say 2 points. 1 point had to be when I auditioned for Suitland. Like, I wasn't necessarily like, you got to do this, but a woman came to the school and did a presentation and was promoting Suitland's visual performing arts program. And it was like one of those like power presentations. I don't know if anybody knows that who's listening, but back in the day, we had this thing called PowerPoint presentation. And it was so magical. It seemed so grand, like how they put it together. And I was like, oh my God, I have to go here. But I was going down the list and I was like, well, I can't do any of the other things. I don't play an instrument. I can't dance. I can't paint. I don't like, well, gosh, theater, I guess I got to do this thing again. And let's try it. And I actually didn't put a lot of pressure on it because I'd been away from it so long. And I was like, honestly, this is the last time. If I don't get into the school, it's not meant for me. Mm-hmm. So I kind of went into it in that way. And that did change everything for me. But I would say the second time I decided to do this was when I left college, because I was doing great in school. I've always been honor roll, honor society in college, like A student, blah, blah, blah. But my first year, I was just bored. I was like, I don't want to take all these gen ed classes. I'm spending money I don't have. I had to figure out how to pay for college. My family couldn't pay for me. Like, that's what it was. And I was like, and I'm not really getting into my acting classes as of yet. You don't really dive into those your first year as a freshman, whatever. And I was like, and I'm paying how much for what? So so after my first year, I was like, if I'm gonna do this, if this is what I want to do, I'm not gonna spend my money giving it to the university. Like, I'm just not, because academia, I don't want to do that. I need to be out here, like living it in real life. You know what I mean? And so I dropped out. And I just hit the pavement, like figuring it out on my own. And that was that jump for me, I think, was the moment. I was like, this is real life.
Thank you. Wow, that's big. I mean, when you get to that spot, you realize like, nope, that's not the path. That's not the direction I
Yeah.
want to go in. And I hear different things. I've tried to do some acting stuff here and there, and I've talked to casting directors and things of that, and folks that are in the industry, producers and so on. And they talk about sort of being available. That's one of those traits of like just you get the job a lot of the time by having those good relationships, that good work ethic, being there, being on time, all of that stuff. But what I'm always hearing it is, and even sort of hitting the pavement, having those reps, picking up those opportunities. Like, I was listening to it's a guy talking about being successful in podcasting, and when he mentioned the number of podcasts he's done in the 11 years he's been doing it, the number was in the thousands. I think he said almost 5,000 episodes. He does a much shorter podcast, but still it's a daily podcast.
Wow.
And he's like, it's about the reps. He's like, I'm always doing something. He's like, you'll have a person that, whatever the creative thing is, it's just like, I'm not really putting time towards it. And when you have that sort of extra pressure of, well, I got to do this now. This is now my thing. You don't have sort of the safety net. You're doing other things, I would imagine, to kind of exist, but there's something that's taking priority.
Yeah, I agree with that. It is the reps. And you know what? Maybe because I have more of a discipline in this field as far as theater and acting, but like bringing up podcasts and things. I mean, when we were in the pandemic, a lot, there was nothing for us to do. And everyone was, wanting to do a podcast and all that. And I had started, and even before this, I remember finding like an old thing on YouTube I did back in like 2010. And I was like, what is this? It was a trailer that I did for this. I didn't know it was a podcast at the time, but this thing that I wanted to do with other artists, and I like on my old computer, and I was like, this is crazy. I was like, wow, it's never seen the light of day. That's bananas. But it is what you're saying. It's like, you got to keep at it. You got to keep doing the work or creating something, and you'll get there. But it's really hard. And listen, high five to you, 15 years, because I don't even know what that is. Like, I've dibbled and dabbled and pressed record and play like a number of times on my hand. So I think to keep that type of consistency up, especially because it is like your machine, it's you doing the thing.
Yeah. So where does that sort of like work ethic, your approach to, seeking out opportunities, to paying attention and focus on your craft come from? Mine comes from, my parents, really. I was one of those kids that I was always trying to do something creative, and I would always have like, oh, right, I got to do the actual work. Let me hurry up and get this B on this test. I could get an A, but I'd rather rush through the test in like 20 minutes, just kind of go straight down the center. I was like, oh, there's a B. So I could draw for the rest of the class, or work on writing rhymes when I was a rapper briefly. We won't talk about that.
But, wait. You can't just say that and then move on.
It wasn't good. It was high school.
Well, wait, what was the name? What was the name? You must say it.
It was Nam Mecca. Yeah.
Nam Mecca.
Yeah. I used to always wear Mecca, the clothing line. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I had a lot of hair then too, and it was very lush and curly. So just imagine this.
So you just had like a fro and yes.
It looks Samoan.
Yes.
But
I dig that. I dig it.
but in it, sort of, I was one of those kids that I wouldn't really miss time from school because like this was the thing I was supposed to be doing. And now I kind of approach what my responsibilities, whether it be creative, whether it be professional, in that same way of like, don't just, mess around on what you need to do. Get your stuff done, have your purpose, follow your purpose, whether creative or professional. So for you, where does that come from when you're like pursuing work, when you're, working in education? Like, where does that come from as it relates to your work?
I think from having to figure it out on my own all my life. Like I know it doesn't sound like anything. It sounds like what it is. I'm a middle child. I have 3 older brothers. I have 3 little sisters, right? So I'm smack dab in the middle. I'm also very nomadic. I'm also like I feel like I'm the black sheep of my family in terms of artists because I am the only performing artist in my family. So a lot of it was just me being the first or the only one to like navigate certain spaces, right?
Mhm.
Um, and seeing the problem or seeing the drive or what I want to do, the passion, and then figuring out, okay, so how do we get there, or how do we get what's in here out, or what's in here, how do we access that. And so I've been my manager all my career. Like I've never had a manager up until this point. Kind of sort of for like 2 seconds, which wasn't real. We're not gonna talk about it. I'm not gonna say no names. It was like a real quick no. um, but not to skip ahead, but like I have agents now. I still don't have a manager, but up until this point, even deciding to leave school and deciding to figure out, okay, what I have to do, what spaces do I have to be in? How can I continue to learn? I was just always seeking that out. And I feel like the seeking out of that is the work ethic. Like, because it depends on how much you want it, right? We can, well, no, it depends on faith without works is dead, right? We can want something, we can love something, but if we're not putting action to it, or supporting that desire, it's kind of hard for it all to kind of like, materialize. And so I've just always been the one to like, I need something. And it looks like I'm the only one who can, one, give it to me, and or who has that much passion and desire for the thing. Now my family's super supportive of me. They're great as far as that and loving me through this journey. But yeah, I think it's the solo dolo thing. I think it's just really living that out since I was a youngin'. I mean, even, kind of stepping in the role of like sister mother, but being in that role a lot of my life.
Yeah.
So I think that that's what prepared me to like get or have the relationship to what work is. What does that look like to Kashayna, and like developing that muscle and that discipline.
I hear you. I relate to that a lot in doing this and putting it out. Like the moment where, I'm talking with someone and they're like, yeah, well, what you should do is this. And I was like, I think I'm good. I think I know what my plan is going to be, and kind of accepting what comes with it. You know what I mean? Where if it's just like, I want to do this. This is my vision. And I'm an Aquarius, right? So I use this. I'm like, I'm riding that wave, whatever it is. And it's the sort of creative wave. I've called it the creative Holy Ghost. But whatever it is, I'm following that sort of path. And it's just like I already have certain things that are baked in, like the work ethic and how I go about things. But it's just like finding that direction and a lot of times seeking it out, because there is sort of no framework really sitting there. Like, I'm, not necessarily, I'll share it this way. I have two older siblings that I met when I was like a teenager. My dad has two older kids. So I was the older brother for a long time. And then when my siblings came along, it's like, you're now the middle kid. I was like, I'm always the oldest kid. That was sort of my energy. And that is a personality trait that's very much how I go about things. And, when you mentioned the thing about having like the family that's very supportive, but it's like they don't have that same sort of, it's kind of the same for me when I say, hey, I'm going to hop on a train and go to Philadelphia to record a bunch of podcasts. They're like, why are you spending your money doing that? I was like, because I have the money to do it. And it's a lot of fun. It's kind of what that is. And, when you have folks, it's like, they're going to get it. They're going to like dig it from a certain vantage point. But when you're out here, like, look, I got to do this thing with my hair today. I got to like wear this makeup. I'm in this movie, I'm going to be on this stage. They're like, all right, be careful.
Yeah. What do you say to that? Right. It's okay. Have fun. I get have fun a lot. I get have fun a lot. And I'm like, thanks. Just going to work. But yes, I should be having fun at work. Like, absolutely. Yeah, it is. It's just like that support, but like also it's cool that they don't really get it. Like, it's fine. I'm fine with it. Like, my mom still asks like the same top 3 questions every time we get on the phone. And I'm like, girl, like,
There was there was one instance where I had my dad. I do a movie review podcast outside of this, and I'd mentioned
oh,
to him, oh
fun.
yeah, I'll share it with you after.
Yes, please.
And we were talking about it. I remember growing up, I was like, Dad, remember you had us watch all these old Van Damme movies with you? He's like, yeah. So we were sitting there
My childhood.
doing
Okay.
a podcast together, he and I, about Double Impact.
Wow.
He barely talked. He was like, oh, this is actually hard. He was like, I thought you just get on here and BS. I was like, oh no, I got like questions and notes and research.
I actually, that's genius. That's genius in that way to like find a way to, I mean, other than like, well, for me, it's other than my family coming to see my show, to think about a way to kind of include them in my world without it feeling like I'm teaching you about something, but it's like, more of an active way to see like what their ends are. I mean, like everyone loves movies, but I'm not on the big screen yet. And I think that that's really well, because it's like my mom obviously understands the theater thing because she was with me when I was younger and doing it in high school and seeing a lot of my shows. But like family to them, it's like, wait, what TV show are you on? Or what movie are you on? It's like, oh my God, y'all have no idea what that question does to actors. It's like,
Like,
yeah. It's like I guess I'm really not successful because I haven't you can't watch me yet. So I don't know.
I used to run
No,
into
joking,
that.
joking.
You were thrown there. So you're like on the radio, right? I was like, not at all, actually. Define radio. I'll say stuff like that.
Define it. Yeah.
Because it is sort of that, the top tier thing. And it's like, look, I'm working. That's just what it is. I'm working. So I definitely want to ask you this. So going back, as you are traversing and getting into this stage, like in the more like recent history, is there like a moment, like a sort of pivotal moment or a project that significantly shaped like where you're at now and maybe how you go about like, all right, this is a project that I think really is going to be something that I'm interested in, or this is a gig that I really want to do because it has this criteria?
Well, there are 2 of those. There's one that I wasn't in at all, but it was something that inspired me when I saw it, and in a very visceral way that I think was just like a huge shift in me as an artist. I saw years ago. I want to say, was it 2011 maybe? Um, at Arena Stage in DC, I saw a production of Ruined by Lynn Nottage. And this amazing actress, she's on Broadway right now, I believe, still doing Harry Potter, the Cursed Child. But this amazing actress, Black British actress, Jenny Jules, she was Mama Nandi, the lead in Ruined. And when I say from the beginning of the show to like the curtain call, she had me just, I mean, the entire production was amazing. The entire cast was amazing. The way it was staged was amazing. It was in the Fitch Handler, which is an arena styled all in the round. So already you have to be on a different level to be able to engage and to keep the audience in the round and not leave anyone out. And this play, very heavy, if people know it, but her performance was just so captivating and so honest and so just like, and I just remember at the curtain call after the show when she stepped out in that center stage and the way the sold out, it's like over 600 seats in there. Everyone was on their feet, and the way that they were just praising what this woman just did and the way she stood there and received it. I had never seen a Black woman, a Black actress in that space before. And I couldn't even stand up. I sat in my chair and I just like wept. And I was like, I don't know what's happening. And it was just so that has touched me in a very specific way, because it's less about like the superficiality of, oh, people are clapping for me and they're here for me. And it's about really stepping into being able to be present for a moment where you have literally like touched an entire, I mean, one person is enough. I always say if I reach one person, that's enough. But to have that type of power,
Yeah.
it's a huge responsibility, I think, as an artist, but also it's a huge blessing and affirmation to receive that you are doing the thing and you are in alignment with like your purpose. So that changed me. I was like, if I ever, I don't know what that project is yet for me. I have not stepped into it yet, but I will know it when it happens. And then just being able to do the last show, I understudied at Roundabout, so that was my first New York off-Broadway show, and we just closed on Sunday, and I got a chance to actually go on 3 times, so I had an official off-Broadway debut. But this was great to be around the artists I was around here in New York and at this time, because they were just so beautiful and so talented, and I got to be in space with Tony-nominated actors and the Nicole Ari Parker, who's just gorgeous, and every day I would just be like, I can't. Like, but to watch her and process this whole time and to talk to her and learn from her, that's been probably one of my most recent moments of like, and I'm just very grateful. But yeah, those would be the two.
And congratulations on that recent debut off Broadway. Shout out to you.
Thank you. Thank you. We need more. We need more.
Yeah, more. I'm going to send this to everyone. What are we doing?
Yeah. It's like universe. Yes.
More. And the thing is, when it comes in, it's just like, you know, having some of the stuff that we touched on earlier, just being ready to receive that and being equipped to receive that. You know, there are so many different gigs that float over that are tangentially connected, where, you know, that come from this podcast. I mentioned earlier, like there was this TV show that I did a scene for, but the scene was cut, but I was like there for the production and seeing all of this different stuff. And I'm like, oh, and the sort of root of it was I interviewed the guy that wrote the book. And I know the casting director because I also interviewed them and went to the school. We went to school together in high school when I was a rapper. And she was like, she's hit me one day. She's like, Rob, do you want to be a drug dealer? I was like, yeah, sure. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. And it was just like, just the sort of connection. It was the We Own This City show that was on HBO. And
nice.
It's like my scene wasn't in it, but I was just like, oh, right. I was around this and around these different folks. And sometimes just kind of being in the scene and in the scene, like the grouping and being around and in fellowship with folks who do something, who are from a certain community, creative community, there's something about that really hits. You know, I'm doing some interviews with comedians, and I remember it was one day I was sitting there, it was an art festival, and I'm sitting there in this comedy club, and everyone's getting ready. You're seeing all of the nervous energy, all of the preparation, all of that different stuff. And they asked me, it's like, so when do you go on? I was like, oh no, I'm just like here observing for interviews. You know, like I'm not a comedian. But having that sort of energy, like, nah, you're kind of sitting here with us. I think you are one. And then always getting that nudge, you should do improv. You should do this. You should do that. And I'm like, I do this. But I suppose being around and being in it and being able to talk with the different folks, there's something about that. And it's something about being around that sort of energy, you know, like it's something about it. Like naturally I gravitate towards the stage despite being afraid of it.
And those things, and what you're talking about, what that is, like being in the space, it's something that can't be taught. Like you have to, you like you said, you have to be present for it. You have to be in the space. You have to, immerse yourself in the world of the thing, because it does inform your art. It does inform like skill, and all that stuff.
I like the way actually, keep both of those in.
I feel like I've never said it that way before. That was weird.
It's the Maryland connection.
That's exactly what it is. Got a little twang from my years there. Yeah.
I mean, look, I've been told that I don't have a Baltimore or a Maryland accent, so whatever.
Well, you said Baltimore. You said Baltimore. I heard the T. I feel like that's different. Usually you don't hear the T.
I've been told by a guest that I had on who's a linguistics professor. It's like, where's this crisp accent from?
Oh, wow.
I was like, Morgan State University in East Baltimore.
The merge. And also, do you think it has anything from doing podcasts for 15 years? Like there's something about, I mean, I would imagine so.
I think it's a piece of it. And I think I'll say this. My partner who I referenced before we got started, she pointed out the one thing that I say that sounds real Baltimore. And I was like, look, you can kick rocks. She's like, what's
What
this
do you
orange
think?
thing? I was like, orange. She's like, you don't say orange, you say orange.
First of all, that's funny because people make fun of me when I say orange all the time. All the time. It's orange or coffee. And I didn't and like coffee is like I feel like they exaggerate, but it's orange, coffee. There was something else someone in my cast asked me the other day to say, and I was like, walk away from me. It's what is with that? Yeah. So you say it again.
Orange.
Orange.
It's
Like
almost
it's
like
like
it's a CH at the end.
I was gonna say like this. It's
Yeah,
not, I
like
mean, it's not orange. Okay, I don't say okay. Orange. Well, maybe I do. Wait, orange.
but in it, it's almost a good segue right here, right? Where in this makes sense, I think, where like this is just what I sound like, but I think there are some instances where we sort of adjust for that audience or what have you. Like for instance, when I have to get on stage and I'm doing like a live podcast or doing a movie screening or something along those lines, I have to be cognizant that I'm in front of people. I have to gesticulate. I have to have some presence or what have you. Whereas here, I'm moving my hands a lot, but I'm just sitting in a chair, maybe wearing pants, maybe not. Who knows?
Sure.
I'm comfortable. I'm cozy guy.
Right.
So from a performance standpoint, what would you say like that sort of growth component has been for you? Like where you're at now, you maybe think back on like earlier work as far as like maybe the blocking or how you were presenting yourself on stage. It could even be in auditions, but thinking about sort of maybe some of those challenges early on and where you're at now, what do you think comparatively?
Trust that I've done the work. That and that is really the answer for me. I wish it was like more deep. But I mean it is because honestly, I think it's so funny because like people rehearse and you practice and you know, you're preparing for the performance and the thing, and it's like we get to the performance and then suddenly short nerves and things like that. That's because you care about the performance. That's what it means to me. It doesn't mean that you're not capable or that you're gonna bomb. It means that you care and what you are presenting and sharing with the audience. But it's interesting that we get to that point and it's like, so what happened to all those weeks or months of work? Like we're just gonna throw it out the window. And so I had to like get to a place where I trusted myself,
Yeah.
trusted me. Everything else isn't the stage crews doing their jobs. Your scene partners got you. The audience is going to receive it the way that has nothing to do with you. They're going to receive the story however they're going to receive it. But trust that you got it. You've been working it this long. It's in your bones. You got the blocking. Don't psych yourself out because I think it's the whatever we're doing up here in our heads that is actually the cause for us to bomb or to go up on lines or to forget stuff because we get in our own way. And I had to learn that early because I still get nervous, but it doesn't take over me the way it used to. Like it doesn't make me forget a line on purpose. Like I've done that. I've known the line and I've been so nervous about it. And then when it's my time to say it, it's like it's gone. And it's like I just had it. How is it like I know it? And I think that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing. Trust the work that you've done up until this point. All of it. All of it. Even work that has nothing to do with whatever show that you're doing at the time. It all informs it and it's all supportive. So it's got me to a place where I can step on that stage knowing that like I got it.
I like that. I like that piece of it. Like, just knowing that you have it, knowing that you put that work in and you know that folks are going to do their stuff, like like scene partner, production, all of that. And, one of the things because I have a terrible memory, right? It's in certain things. And it comes to like, I'm more improvisational where I can just like, let me go off of here. I mean, I know I kind of botched that question. Let me flip it. Let me make it work, make it make sense. But in times where I have to remember something or I have to go off like the like off of some semblance of memory, it feels too refined. I did a panel and I was introducing a series of short films and I practiced for like 3 days. My lines, I recorded them using this audio and I was playing them back like the thing from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I was doing that, right?
Yeah.
And as soon as I got up there, sweating, forgot the whole thing. And I was like, and it is probably like 300 people there, as most people I've been presenting something in front of. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to work on what I know. What can I do? I can be moderately charming, and I take up a lot of space, so I could just like flash my arms around and all of this, make it look like something for you to see. But ultimately, my job is chiefly to, introduce these films or what have you and welcome folks here. So I had this nice thing prepared, forgot it, remembered it afterwards, which was really funny. And was able to make it happen, was able to accomplish that sort of mission. So definitely I want to get this insight from you, and this is one of those sort of gems, right? Is there like a tactic that you utilize to remember lines, to remember just certain things? Like, is it just repetition? Is it, you're doing this? Is it you're recording this somehow and doing what I did and failing at it? You're not failing at it, but I did. What is that tactic for you?
Yeah, someone asked me this recently. I don't have a technique in which, like a memorization technique. I'm good at it. Like I was trying to like say
No
it
New York
without
right
like
there.
saying I can't. But I listen, some people just have certain skills that they're like just naturally really great at. Yeah, I don't record lines. I have friends who do that. I cannot sit at a page and just memorize, and then have it memorized. Like I've done that before, self-tapes that I waited till last minute to do and just been like, fuck it. Can I? Okay. And just been like, whatever. And I'll like tape it up on the wall and just use that. But for me, I'm a very visual learner. So I have to like see the thing. I have to like it has to move through my body. So when I'm doing lines, I have to be doing something, and that actually helps it stick than if I was sitting here reading like I could sit here and read a script or a side for like 30 minutes and I'll probably remember like half of it right away. But like if I'm doing it and I've seen it or heard it and I'm doing something, I can come back to it. As long as I know the story, like if I know the whole thing and I'm getting certain parts in like pictures or whatever, I'll remember it because I'm like, oh, the story. If I lose something, I'm like, oh, but I remember this. And that's how I did it with this last gig. And, as an understudy, I was covering 2 roles. So you don't know which role you're going to go up on, but you need to know both sets of lines. And in some scenes, both of my characters were speaking to each other. So that was also like weird. So it's like, I can't sit there and just like read it. I have to. So watching the rehearsals and all that stuff, like I stopped bringing my script early on in the process. And my other castmates were like, are you off book? And I was like, oh, yeah, I think so. I mean, we've seen the run twice already. I think I've got it locked in. That's how that works for me. I got to like breathe it. I have to like live it or see it. But I know that doesn't work for everyone. It's just like how your brain works, I think, is finding what that tactic is. But that's mine. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. And, I think when you're adding something that you're learning something else, for instance, I was sharing a little bit, and I guess this is another one of my patented segues. I was sharing a little bit about how I'm doing some of this education stuff now, right? And concurrently, for the last 2 months plus, I've been studying Japanese and trying to learn Japanese, and now I'm able to go through like some of the Duolingo courses. And but it's like I spent a lot of time doing it. It's gamified, but also it's just like, oh, right. Now I'm just watching anime without the dubs. It's just straight like subs now. Or even watching like Japanese wrestling and not looking for the English feed, just looking for the regular feed. And I'm picking up probably 5 to 7% of it, but I'm like seeing that sort of growth. So that concurrent with really having to articulate sort of the whole podcast journey to a group of high school students, it's like those things are going together. I'm thinking about it in a different way and kind of, I guess, revisiting things that I know. Like, how you're doing something for a while and it's like, you know how to do that, right? And it's like, no, they haven't. And being able to learn something, but also be teaching, it makes me change my approach a bit, I suppose. So for you, and being in this role where you're a mentor, you're supporting folks in their journey. Talk about like how you're at this stage within your career, and you have debuts, you're being understood, covering two roles. You're just talking to yourself. I don't know, but talk about how sort of your experience has impacted how you're being a mentor and supporting folks in their journey.
I feel like it's easy for me to share because I'm doing the thing, and maybe it feels more accessible to tap into what those who are coming up behind me and or with me maybe feeling,
Yeah.
or like where they are in their journeys. Like I can remember, like it was like, because like I'm very much in the beginning of my career, right? Sure, I've been doing it for over a decade, but I'm very much in the beginning in terms of like what I envision for myself, in terms of success. But when I do meet youth, or when I am mentoring, or because I mentor with I was mentoring with a nonprofit organization for stuttering youth. And when I see them and when I hear their stories and when we create together, I see myself. And I feel like it's easier than, or it feels easier to just relate to them and to be open and transparent about like what my journey is. I don't ever try to make it seem like it's, oh, my thing's about to die. Sorry. I never tried to make it seem like, one, I have all the answers. And I love to say I don't know. That's just being honest. And so I think because I'm a student still and will continue to be, I think it allows me to be a great resource for people who have questions, and or mentor, and someone who can be supportive of someone else's journey. Because I'm very much that still.
Yeah, I think it's always being, when you're not so far removed from it or always sort of revisiting it, you're still having that mindset of I want to learn. And it's this thing where I only know a little bit more than you because of experience, but we're coming from a similar spot or what have you. So when I'm talking about sort of doing this and doing it for as long as I have, I'm like, hey, I can be a resource,
Absolutely.
and it's like, look, learn from all of my mistakes, because I've made a lot of them, but also, being flexible and being open to say, no, that's a good idea. You should do that. And being encouraging in a way, because, and I would imagine, with a lot of creative folks, when, you hear that sort of piece of criticism or something that's, being perceived as criticism in those sorts of relationships, especially, that could lead to someone just like, I don't want to do this anymore then. And that's something that, like, when someone comes to me for like some, feedback or sort of like, what do you think about what I do? That's why I regard doing this is very important. Doing these interviews, what have you. A lot of times these are people's first interviews. And it's like, no one's ever considered me serious. No one's ever considered my work to be worthwhile. I'm like, well, I do. Let's talk about it, and just trying to provide that. I take a lot of pride in that. And I take a lot of responsibility in that as well from my side of the 2% that I'm providing, and providing that sort of platform. And it's a version of mentorship in my opinion. And then I see, folks who have been on here that go on to do really cool things, and they'll reference, like, I did this interview with Rob like a few months back, and this person found me out, or I sold some work, or someone's like, here's some funding, or what have you. And it's cool. And it's, again, like we were talking about earlier, being in sort of conversation and within that scene with folks. So I got,
and it's, I'm sorry. I know you have another question. Hold on, wait, let me grab my thing. It's right here.
Yeah.
But also I wanted to say that it's also like wanting to be the very thing that I needed at one point when I was coming up, right? I mean, I had mentors and I had people who poured into me and was able to help me on my journey. But there are things that I did not know. that I should have known, right? Especially when working with different institutions and things like that, that are supposed to be preparing you for the real world. Um, and I found that I was like, oh, there were a lot of gaps there though. And so if I can be a source, a resource, and if I can help someone out with things that everyone should have access to, I'm definitely the first one to be like, yeah,
Is
me.
is is there something that comes to mind in that vein? Because you got some success. I see the Hillman grad mentorship. I see a few different things here, and we talked about a few earlier. But is there something like that comes to mind that you really wish you knew? It could be something that's simple, but something that you wish you knew earlier. That whenever you're mentoring someone, you're like, this is like the first thing I tell y'all now. Like me, it's make sure the mic is plugged in.
Well, know your lines. Number
Well,
one. Well, I mean, for real, like depending on what you're doing, like you don't like you never. I feel like I always want to make sure that what I can control, that's what it is. What can you control in this situation? Ask yourself that, and whatever like the first like top three things are, handle it. So for me, it's like if I'm going to a new space, if I'm auditioning or whatever, it's like, well, let's say auditioning because everyone knows what that is, right? And what that feels like, and that's the beginning of a lot of people's journey. What do you have control over the adjudicators in the room? Do you have control on their thoughts? What they want? You have no control over casting whatsoever. You don't even have control over what time you'll be seen, right? But you have control of being early to your call time. You have control of knowing all your lines, and you have control on taking a breath and taking up space. And so for me, I would say, yeah, focus on the things you actually have control over. And another big thing that I wish people would have told me is don't be so quick to get representation right out the gate.
that's good.
That's all I got as of right now.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Because and before we go into the sort of last like real question, and we got some rapid fire questions, you didn't avoid those. Whenever I have to speak in front of a group of people, I always think that I'm bombing. I used to do like ads for events I was doing, and I was like, "Come watch me bomb live," and I would make it into a joke that sort of like the gallows humor. It's just like I'm uncomfortable, but I'm still going to do it. That's the thing. I'm still going to make it happen, and it matters to me. As you touched on, I'm really glad that you said that, because I think a lot of people just like, "Why are you nervous?" I'm like, because it matters to me, and I was like, there are people like one of the things I was able to go to this past summer. I was able to see Beyonce in Detroit and, see the, Renaissance and all of that. And it was great. And I remember my partner was like, do you think she gets nervous? I was like, yes, I do. I'm confident she does. And because this matters, she's having a great time. And this is spectacle. This is like, this is like an experience. And I'm saying that, cramped in a seat in Lions Stadium with some weird European people behind me. I didn't understand what they were saying. I was like, I want to listen to their podcast. And it was great. And I was like, all of the glitter and all the rhinestones. I was like, you're making a moment. So yes, it matters. And I think when folks look at it, all of the stuff that they're doing, something from that sort of scale and the grandeur and the size of that to something small, like smaller rather, doing like community theater or even a lowly podcast, you put your effort into it. And to as you said a moment ago, you control these pieces of it. And I've said this a lot, in doing this podcast, I can control being prepared for it, having the sort of platform. I can't control if the guest doesn't like me. I can't control if the guest doesn't show up. A lot of people just don't show up, and either literally or just with that energy. But you have folks that show up and they have the right energy and they're like, oh, absolutely. I've been looking forward to this. It's magic. It's magic. It's a really enriching conversation. So with that, I want to move into this last question. And you touched on it a little bit. You gave a little bit of a tease. You're talking about sort of, aspirations and all. Let's talk about like, forecasting. Like, what do you, maybe there's some things that are coming up that you're like, I might be able to talk about that, but where do you want to see yourself career-wise, in terms of projects or types of projects that you want to do in the next like few years, next like 3 to 5 years, what have you? I know that sounds like an interview question, but definitely, it's a thing that's there. Like we try to move
Yeah.
in a trajectory.
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna put a time limit on it because I don't want to pressure myself, but I also don't want to limit myself because like what I may say in 3 years could be tomorrow, you know. um, but yeah, definitely TV. Definitely, we're getting on someone's series, and we'll be also writing one. That's the first time I've ever said that out loud in this way. I've said it to two close people. But I think I'm just stepping in more of like who I am as an artist and what I want to do and just being less afraid of myself. And definitely film. But the first goal is to continue rounding out the team. So I'm talking with some people to kind of like complete my team that I have right now. And hopefully that will help get into more rooms and make more introductions here. A big part of like what I wanted to do within like the year, well, honestly, it was before the year closed and I manifested it, was I did want to get on a New York stage. I felt like this is my home and it's crazy that I haven't. And as much work as I've done in DC and Connecticut and Philly and all these places, like I was like, I need to be on my home stage. So we did that.
Yeah.
So now we need to get on these sets. I definitely want to move into TV and film. So that's the next order of business. So we'll see. Your girl is working to get there.
I love it. I love it.
I mean, I had like a really quick, it was during the pandemic too. So I thought it was like cute. And it was, I had a quick spot on Godfather of Harlem, a guest star. And that was like my first time really being on a set and like, you know, meeting people and seeing people. And I was like, oh, this is home. I was like, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. Yeah. So more of that.
When you get a little bit of that the first hit's free now. I mean, but yeah, I mean, you have those sort of like goals that might be goals for you. And, one of the things, like, again, I go back to the TV show thing, right? And when I did the interview, it was right after the dude, Justin Fenton, the guy that wrote the story that became We Own the City. We were doing the interview and he was like, I just got off the phone with HBO. He did HBO and did my podcast. And he mentioned it and I was like, he's like, it's going to be a show. I was like, be on that shit. That's literally what I said, just in the universe, right? And in this last year, I've had some cool things happen, but it's never sort of like, it's not like being ungrateful. It's always being grateful, but it's always like wanting more. And it's like, well, now I want to do this as well. So like I had like a signature coffee earlier this year, as we're recording this. And my logo is the one that's behind me in this visual, and that's on all the bags. So I'm only the third, person that this coffee shop that's been around for like 20 years has partnered with. So when folks would see the bag, they'd buy beans, and then they'd see my sticker on it. They're like, "You're the guy." And I'm like,
so
"Oh, this is cool, but also uncomfortable. Where's my hoodie?" But
is it still uncomfortable?
I'm very noticeable.
Yeah. 6'4". I didn't even know.
But this is the thing that's funny about it. I don't like, people don't recognize me, and perhaps lost a little weight recently, but people don't recognize me in person until I start talking. They're like, "Oh no, you're the guy."
Wow, by your voice, that's a flex.
It's
a flex.
A little bit of a flex.
That is a flex. Lean into it. Lean into the flex. I love that for you. That's so cool.
Some have called me the voice of Baltimore, and yeah, that's one of those titles that's been floating around. Yeah.
Wait a minute. So I'm on air with the voice of Baltimore. I didn't even know. I should have gotten it together. I should have come more. Okay, it's fine.
No, you're great. You're great. I'm here. I gotta
We'll do this again. Again. I did not know, sir.
I mean, I'm gonna need that. I'm gonna need that guest spot on this TV show you're gonna be writing. I'm just saying. Anyway,
listen.
I mean, if you need a tree in the background, it just
not a tree. Not a tree. Wow.
Well, let me close out on the real questions and move into these rapid fire ones. So now, as I always tell folks, don't overthink these. Uh,
Okay.
and it's kind of like what I said is what I said. You know what I mean? All right. So let's see. Do you have what is so I would imagine you're it's late nights, you're prepping, you're doing, theater, anything, right? Like it's late nights and you need something good, you need something to eat, but it has to be good, doesn't have to be healthy. What is your go-to, like, look, this is a long day. I'm gonna need like a Frank, I'm gonna need a cheesesteak. I don't know what it is, but what is that go-to food item for you after like the long, busy day? It's just something that's delicious, but not necessarily healthy.
But that's not healthy. That's so funny because my friends make fun of me all the time because my snacks be healthy. Um, die. What is the go? Honestly, we could keep it. We can keep it real simple. A slice of pizza, like some good pizza. I'm still eating pizza. I don't tend to. I tend to eat like more like vegan pizzas now. Don't make fun of me. But what's funny is you're gonna laugh at me, but every time I'm like, when I go in on a snack, it's usually the omega-3 blend trail mix. I can tear up a whole pack of them things and I know that's so weird. They make fun of me all the time. But yeah, no, a pizza is like the good thing. Like if I just need a good slice, which isn't hard to find in New York.
Last time I was up, that was the first thing I did off the train.
See?
I went there, got a slice. I was like, I don't need anything extra on there. I was like, that's for back home in the commoners. Just give me a slice of cheese pizza. Yeah. I say commoners a lot. I say lessers. I say mids. It's a lot. I get very spicy when I'm comfortable. I get even more spicier. But yeah, when it comes to sort of the healthier but kind of weird snack, you ever see those? I think it's like the white cheddar, like Smart Pop, like the low calorie popcorn.
Yeah.
So I'll take a serving of that and mix it with like raw cashews. It's delicious.
Oh.
This is a delicious combo. You get like the texture of the cashews and then a little of that
Huh.
saltiness and the cheesiness from the popcorn. That's been a
Okay.
go-to snack for me recently. My girl loves the omega-3. She was like, I'm gonna eat this whole can.
I can tear them up. And it's annoying because I'll buy a whole pack, fresh pack. And then the next day I'm like, where'd it go? Now I gotta go back to the grocery store.
That's me and chewing
Yeah.
gum at this point.
Yeah.
um,
Gum?
yeah, that's me
You
and
have
like
cavities?
five gum, like the chewing gum.
Do you have cavities?
Yeah, who doesn't? I mean,
I mean, that's right. I don't know why I asked that because I'm sorry. That
not
wasn't me judging you, Rob. I'm so sorry.
I just really get into it. It's just like, one would think that I used to be a smoker because I'm chewing so much gum, but
So much.
it's like, nah, I just
What
need
does
to
that do for you?
just be occupied. I was gonna say it was gonna
Okay.
sound really weird a second ago.
But I understand. Yeah.
Do you have any superstitions when it comes to acting?
No.
All right,
Hell no.
all right, just
Because that would get in my way. I feel like that would trip me up. That would trip me up a little bit. It would. I can't. No.
all right. Last two. So you mentioned, I'm always curious about sort of the habits of creative folks or what have you. How many hours of sleep do you get on average?
Okay. Not a lot. But I can add. Okay. Let's see. No, I'll say I get like an average of 6. I can get an average of 6. Now, the last 2 weeks, I wasn't getting that as we were getting closer to closing and like going out with people. But when I say we closed on Sunday, Monday, you couldn't find me. You could not find me. I was up under these sheets for like hours, knocked, and usually after a show that happens, you just like clunk out and like your body, it catches up to your body finally. And you're just like out. Either you get really sick or you like just need sleep. But I still average about like 5 to 6 hours.
You're that's the numbers I was at for a little while. I'm finally getting close to that 7 or 8, but this is the thing that's the caveat. When things are like going weird, I find myself like sleeping in the studio more. Like I have the home studio and I'll just bring a blanket in here, have like the wild body pillows. I'm like, yeah, I'll just watch television here or watch a movie. And then it's just nine
Knocked out.
o'clock. I'm gone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah, I gotta actually sleep in the bed, bro. This sleeping in your studio artist thing doesn't work. You have a house,
for your
Playboy.
body, but also like your body.
Yes.
You got to be stretched out.
So this is the last one I got for you.
Okay.
I am wearing one of my favorite colors. I love burgundy. I love oxblood, I'll call it, or blood of my enemies.
Yeah, it's a good one. Oh,
do you have a favorite color? And if so, what is it?
yeah. Right now, I'm on purple. And I never was on purple like that. Blue used to be my thing when I was a kid, up until like young adulthood. And I think it started off as a kid because I was like being like to pink, it's like don't push that up on me. So I'm gonna go blue. Very basic. But I love all different shades of blue. This is my birthstone. I have a blue sapphire ring that I wear all the time. And I just love it. Water, all that it represents, spiritually as well. But I'm on purple right now. I'm on purple.
Purple's royalty. Blue has shades of royalty as well. I mean,
yeah. And it's also just linked to a lot of people in my life who've had an impact on me. Purple was their favorite color, and I've lost a few of them. So it's just been very present. Yeah.
And homage. That's pretty much it. So yeah. See,
I made it through the rapids.
You made it through the rapid fire. People get nervous about it. It's just like, look, you're gonna get through the cauldron that is the rapid fire portion of the podcast. But I want to close out and say thank you for making the time again to come on. And I want to invite and encourage you to share with the listeners where they can check you out on the social medias, the websites, all of that good stuff, to kind of stay in touch with what you got going on. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, thanks for having me. Let me first say that. Thank you for having me on. It was a great time. I had fun. Yes, where y'all can find me. Well, I really be in hiding, y'all. But if you want to see what I'm doing or what I've done, you can find me on Instagram, Shayla V. So that's SHAYLA_VIE. But that's really the only social media I have. I mean, I have Facebook, it's my name, but I don't really be on there. And that's it. And I don't have an active website because I'm a rebel, whatever. Instagram, that's where you'll find me. That's where I be at.
There you have it, folks. I'm going to again thank Kashayna Johnson for coming on and sharing a bit of her story. And I'm Rob Lee, saying that there's arts, culture, and community in and around your neck of the woods. You've just got to look for it.